It's always a pleasure to be with you on Health Matters on Channels Television. A very warm welcome to the program. I am Yomi Otaibe. On the back of the global awareness about sickle cell disease, today on the show we'll be talking about the real human stories behind sickle cell, the resilience of the warriors living with it, the breakthrough giving us hope, and the fact that awareness saves lives. In a moment, I'll be joined by two guests. One, an individual who lives with this reality and is keeping his head above waters despite all the odds. And the other, a leading voice in the management and research of sickle cell disease. Please stay with us on Health Matters. Welcome back. Sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder that affects hemoglobin, the molecules in red blood cells responsible for carrying oxygen. The disease causes red blood cells to become rigid and sickle-shaped, leading to blockages in blood flow and subsequent pain and organ damage. How crucial is early diagnosis and management of sickle cell disease? And how can individuals living with this condition navigate this part? Plus, what support do they need? These and other questions will be answered by my guest on the program. Here with me in our Lagos studio is a consultant pediatric hematologist and oncologist, Dr. Ugonna Fakile. Dr. Fakile is a stem cell transplant physician at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital and lecturer at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And joining us from our Abuja studio is a sickle cell warrior, a lawyer, and founder of Support Sickle Cell Nigeria, Mr. Eyo Bassey. Thank you indeed, and good to see you, Mr. Bassey.
Same here, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, let me come back to the studio here. Sickle cell disease is most common in African individuals of African descent, Mediterranean, Middle East, and Indian, but in Nigeria, it is one of the top 10 non-communicable diseases. Tell us about sickle cell as someone who is in this practice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for having me. So sickle cell is a disease that is inherited, is a genetic disorder inherited as an autosomal recessive disorder. I'll break it down.
Yes.
And it is as a result of an abnormality in the hemoglobin chain, which forms our red blood cells. So there's a replacement of glutamic acid with valine at the 6th position.
Okay,
so I'll explain.
That is break.
I will explain.
That is huge.
I'll explain. It sounds so big. So autosomal recessive means that the person who is living with sickle cell gets the gene from both parents, not from one parent. So he has to get the gene from both parents.
So that is maybe the father is AS.
Is a carrier.
And
the mother is also a carrier.
Okay.
So he inherits the S gene from both the mom and the dad. That makes it recessive. And then the hemoglobin is the part of the blood, the protein part of the blood. Now, hemoglobin is formed by 146 proteins, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, up to 146. Now, valine is number 1, glutamic acid is number 6. At the number 6 position, so the hemoglobin A has valine at number 1 and glutamic acid at number 6. But for the people who have the sickle cell disease, the glutamine, that is at the 6th position, is now replaced by valine. So they have 2 valine molecules in their blood. And that's what causes the instability, that causes all the problems, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Yeah.
Okay, let me hold you there now and go to Mr. Bassey in our Abuja studio. Mr. Bassey, tell us about your journey. At what point did you know about, this sickle cell that you're having to deal with?
Well, when I'm talking about my journey with sickle cell, basically I got to find out when I was young. So I was one of the most active children amongst my siblings. I was almost like an excellent child who was always perfect with his dealings, the things I did, and everything I engaged in. So, but one of the things my mom usually noticed as at the time was that every time when I'm done with those dealings, if I was given an assignment to do, whenever I come back, I will break down in health or have health issues or experience myself being down in health or something like that. And other times when I entered the rain, when I was, when there was a rainfall and I joined other children to play, at the time I'm out, you know, and everything. When everybody's relaxing and happy and maybe doing a nap or something, I will break down in health, and it will be something that we'll have to go to the hospital. That was basically when we found out that I had sickle cell disease.
And how has the journey been since then?
Well, the journey hasn't been quite easy. But I've learned to embrace it with faith, of course, hope, and everything positive, because one thing is to know that you have the disease, another is to embrace it with courage, and of course, know that this is a part of you. There's no way you are doing away with it until life does you part and all that. So you take it with faith and live with it optimistically, believing that everything will be fine in due course.
Okay, doctor, you know, there's the statistics that we all hear about. Every year, between 100 and 150,000 children are born with sickle cell.
Yes, and that's about a third of the global body of newborns being born. So Nigeria holds the highest body of sickle cell. And children, of course, like you said, about 150 of them are born with sickle cell.
And about 100,000 of them also die before they are 5.
That's correct, because it's about 8% of under 5 mortality in children is caused by sickle cell. That's correct.
So how do we address this? Because indeed, yes, you find a man and a woman come together, they're in love, and they have these children. They have children, and beautiful children at that. How do we address the part that the children don't have to suffer for, you know, whatever love is between their parents?
I think that from the beginning, like when a man and a woman are together, you have to check. You have to do the high-performance liquid chromatography. That particular technology will let you know how many percentage of the hemoglobin you have. So it tells you hemoglobin A, you have X percentage. Hemoglobin S, you have X percentage. And that gives an accurate result.
And we have that testing here.
Oh, yes, we have it in Nigeria, you know. So
the cost might be another discussion.
Yes, the cost definitely is not prohibitory. The cost is not prohibitory. It's something people can get. But the test that is available in town in most places is not as accurate as the HPLC. So it's advisable that anyone who wants to go into a marriage or a future should do the HPLC and ensure that you know that you're compatible in terms of genotype. It starts from there, at least so that you don't bring any children that will live with sickle cell going forward. So I think it starts from there. But when we then get there, okay, you didn't check, and then you have children who are living with sickle cell. The first thing is to, you know, by the time the children start manifesting, which is around 6 months, then you need to begin to...
Around 6 months?
Yes,
what signs would you see at that time?
Okay, so by 6 months, the first sign is usually what we call hand and foot syndrome, whereby the hands, the fingers, and the feet swell up. So that's usually the first sign. Some of them then have recurrent transfusions, so they would need blood. They have illnesses, they go to hospital, they check their blood count, and they see that their PCV or their blood level is low, and then they need transfusion. And they're getting these transfusions very often. So that's a pointer to know, okay, why don't we just check? Sometimes we can't check in the immediate, we'll have to check both parents. So you check mom and dad to say, okay, I think that this child may be living with sickle cell. So that's the way we diagnose it.
We'll talk more about some of the symptoms.
Yes, sure.
And maybe you should just talk us through that before I go back to Mr. Bassey.
Okay, so before I talk about the symptoms, I'd like to tell you how the symptoms actually come about. So all of the symptoms of sickle cell, what we term the crises and the complications of sickle cell, the bottom line is that the hemoglobin that I talked about before is the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So in our blood, our hemoglobin carries the oxygen around. So when the sickle, it looks like the crescent, it looks like a sickle, that one harvests cocoa with, like the crescent on top of a mask, like the C shape. So that's the shape. But the normal A hemoglobin, it's nice and round, flexible. It can go through any vessel, be it large or small. But the sickled ones are quite rigid. So once they're flowing through the vessel, they can cause a blockage. So imagine that there's a traffic jam, or there's an accident somewhere, and then all the cars can go through, and then there's backlog of traffic. That's what happens in the system. Once the sickled hemoglobin blocks a vessel, okay, because it's not flexible enough to pass through, then it causes some sort of jam lock. And then that organ that needs the oxygen doesn't get it. And then that triggers the crisis. So they have things like bone pain, they have acute chest syndrome, they can have a stroke, they have leg ulcers or ulcers in their legs. It can affect any organ. It can affect the heart, it can affect the liver, it can affect the kidney, it can affect the eyes, any part of the body, because of course blood is very immobile, it moves up and down. So anywhere that blood goes to can be affected by the sickle cell. So those are some of the symptoms that they present with.
And why they happen.
Okay,
yeah. Let me come to you, Mr. Bassey. You have lived through, I guess, some of these symptoms that the doctor spoke about. You are a father, you are a lawyer, and tell us about, what it takes to manage sickle cell in Nigeria.
Well, I think the part I want to talk about in respect to what you just mentioned is the part where, the Nigerian syndrome, we tend to trivialize a lot of very heavy issues that are plaguing the nation instead of, contextualizing it or probably putting it to focus for persons to know how, enormous these issues are. The issues of sickle cell have actually been trivialized in Nigeria, long enough. You can imagine, like the doctor said, we are the producers, the highest producers of sickle cell in the whole world, with a number of 100,000 to about 150,000. Yet, you cannot even record a ministry in Nigeria that caters for sickle cell needs or caters for sickle cell issue. It is that bad. Like, we are the producers of the highest number of sickle cell in the world, yet we don't have a system, we don't have anything in place to, cater for these people. What is the essence of governance? The essence of governance is to look into the issues and problems of people and then come up with a solution to how you can manage them and, of course, to help them live a better life. But we have had issues of sickle cell from inception till now, and we have not even had a facility that attends to sickle cell that is being sponsored by government to attend to sickle cell. So instead of contextualizing how enormous this problem has been to Nigeria and its population, we tend to trivialize it and, of course, live in the Nigerian syndrome.
We are glad you're here, Mr. Bassey. At least you can speak to some of these issues. If you could just walk us through, what it takes you as a person and some of the challenges associated with managing sickle cell in Nigeria.
Personally, as a person, well, I've been a very positive child right from time, So even when I learned I had sickle cell, I've always, embraced life with so much positivity. So talking about me, I am one strong person that has embraced the condition of sickle cell with so much hope and faith. And that is why I am even coming up with a foundation called Support Sickle Cell Nigeria. But when we talk about problems, there are a lot of enormous problems, like the doctor mentioned, that sickle cell in general are going through, one of which is the stroke, heart issues, problems. One of the current issues right now, currently plaguing the sickle cell community, that is like a menace, that is like, it's like, I don't know which, negative word to use to qualify it. Like, it's plaguing the sickle cell community right now is sickle cell drug addiction. Addiction to pentacillin. There has even been some videos going around lately in Twitch Africa and some studios like that, where persons who are not sickle cell are giving, we're talking about their experiences with a pain medication that sickle cell patients are using, which is called pentacillin. These people expressed their journey, they told Nigerians the pains they have gone through and all the travels they have gone through because of the drug pentazocine. Now, this is a major drug for treatment in sickle cell community. And every sickle cell child, most of them have been, have had to use these drugs at one point in their life. And right now, I can categorically tell you that like up to 70% of sickle cells in Nigeria are addicted to that drugs. And now it is a menace in the sickle cell community. Like, when I mean a menace, I mean a situation that is like suicide. It's like suicide. That's the right word to qualify it. Persons that are addicted to pentazocine right now either find themselves at the end losing their lives, or at the end, everything about their life is turned upside down. So right Bassey, now, if I am to tell anybody...
Sorry to cut your line of thoughts there. What is driving this addiction that you mentioned? What is driving it? What is at the heart of it?
Yes. So sickle cell issues, one of the major protracted issues of sickle cell is pains, right? So pains is the reason sickle cell problem looks, very enormous and very stressful. It's always some excruciating pains, having crises and all that. And this medication is a pain relief medication that is used in the management of sickle cell crisis. And most of these medications are not controlled. Most of them are not regulated because, like in this situation now, the average Nigerian child is struggling to have 3 square meals to feed on, right? So how much more to talk about the drugs that he needs if he falls into crisis? So you find many population, like many sickle cell numbers, many numbers in sickle cell community have to resort to self-management, self-care, in managing their crises and all that. And this is a pain medication, sort of. So, like, I have pain now, so I just say, okay, instead of going to the hospital to start spending hundreds of thousands, let me just, get pentazocine and manage the crisis, within my private space, and then that is how the addiction starts.
Okay.
And some of them start because they couldn't afford the cost of medications in the hospital. Most of them resorted to self-help and all that, and some of them were trying to just manage their situation and all that. That is most of the primary causes, while the majority of the sickle cell numbers are, the numbers are high right now.
Let me come back to the studio. This is a very dire situation that Mr. Bassey has painted. I don't know if you have any information around that. And he mentioned something about self-medication. Talk to us about the dangers of that in managing sickle cell.
It is absolutely dangerous for you to self-medicate, like he rightly said. So pentazocine is a medication that is administered when they come in with the pain crisis. Now, the pain crisis for sickle cell is excruciating. We can't even begin to describe the depth or the intensity of the pain for children or persons living with sickle cell. So for some centers, they administer this pentazocine as pain relief. It is short-acting, but it has this feel-good high effect that people then begin to yearn for. It's highly addictive, so they begin to yearn for it.
And what's the danger in that?
The danger is that there can be overdosage when you abuse it. When it is abused, overdosage can lead to death. It can cause some that need intervention by psychiatrists, because most of patients who get addicted will have to have multidisciplinary management involving the psychologist, the psychiatrist, to at least wean them off this drug addiction. So it's a.
So what would you advise in terms of sickle cell management?
In terms of sickle cell management, yes, when there is pain, use the basic oral paracetamol, oral ibuprofen, Tylenol. And then if this pain persists, then you have to go to the hospital. self-medication is, we do not advise self-medication. Go to the hospital. Let the doctors or let the physicians or, administer the medications that you need. Because it's not just about giving pain medications. There are many other things. Because you have to find the cause or the trigger of that crisis and then address it. So if it's an infection, you have to give antibiotics to treat the underlying cause of that crisis. All right? You have to hydrate. If it's dehydration, the person has to be hydrated to address the underlying cause of that crisis. Because if you do not address the underlying cause, then the person still remains in crisis.
Okay.
So the advice is go to the hospital when there's a crisis and get treated and get sorted out.
Let me remind our viewers that they can actually join us in this conversation. You can call 0808 542233. Science has provided other alternatives to managing sickle cell. You want to briefly tell us about some of them, particularly the ones available in Nigeria, bone marrow transplant and all of that?
In managing sickle cell, there's a drug called hydroxyurea. That is a very, it's a drug that helps to stimulate what we call the hemoglobin F in the body. Now, the hemoglobin F is the fetal hemoglobin. That is the hemoglobin that the body makes while a baby is in the mother's womb. And that fetal hemoglobin actually has the capacity to carry oxygen. It has the capacity to, survive and thrive in low oxygen tension. So when we give that medication, it increases their hemoglobin F, and that helps to prevent or minimize crisis. And
it has to be in the hospital setting?
No. That's an oral drug that can be taken at home every day.
Prescribed, right?
Prescribed, taken at home, and it's for children. We dose it by the weights. Okay, then we also have the bone marrow stem cell transplant as a form of cure, where a donor, you take stem cells from the donor and then, give to the recipient. And there's also the gene therapy, where the patient who is living with sickle cell, their stem cells are taken to the lab, modulated and edited, and then infused back to help the patient or the person to then begin to lead a sickle cell-free life.
Let me, finally, Mr. Bassey, I know you have a lot to say, but what is that one thing that you want to leave behind when it comes to sickle cell in terms of the support that they need?
Well, one of the things I really was positive about when I came to the studio today was to talk about, how this drug addiction has plagued the sickle cell community, primarily because I'm a victim. I sent you a video of the skin ulcers that I have, that I'm still battling with. Like, I am well dressed on my suit, but inside of me, I have a very huge sore that I'm attending to on a daily basis that is taking my finances, So I am a victim of sickle cell drug addiction, and right now I am not just battling with the drug addiction. I'm in my, let me say, rehabilitation state, and I'm not ashamed to say that to the world, because this is a primary issue that is plaguing the sickle cell community, and people are losing their lives on a daily basis. Madam, as I'm speaking to you now, I have lost a relationship that lasted 12 years, trusting a partner and not doubting her faithfulness for 12 years, and all of a sudden it's overturned, and it's a situation of, it's a situation of had I known, So I have lost a love life, a woman that, could accept to drown, in a place. She could drown in a river just so I swim through. That is the kind of love that I lost, a love that has lasted 12 years. And then that is the kind of relationship that I've lost because of the situation of sickle cell, particularly as it concerns drug addiction.
Okay,
that
so
is
what
not
is
all.
That one thing that
I have gotten...
We are really out of time. And I think we have a caller, please. Let's take this caller first. Oh, okay. We lost him. Go ahead, please. Go ahead quickly. We do not have enough time again.
If I was to say one thing to the government right now, In civilized crimes, there are incentives that are put in place to ameliorate the pains of sickle cell. So if I was to say one thing to the government right now, the government needs to put a retreat together, like a retreat that is covered live on camera, where the rehabilitation of sickle cells, everybody that has been affected by the drug addiction, they come together in one place to be rehabilitated. I am even personally surrendering myself to be captured on camera live until the rehabilitation is finally concluded, because it is a menace right now that is plaguing the sickle cell community.
You want the government to look into that? You want the government to look into that?
I want the government
as fast as possible.
I want the government to look into that and to organize a situation, a session where they are rehabilitated, even before live camera. And I want this to be done in the next 48 hours, because if it is not done, the next time I'm appearing on television, I will be exercising my constitutional right of, mobilizing people to go against the government.
And I'm saying the Federal Ministry of Health, those are the helms of affairs there. They are listening, and of course, I'm hoping, and we are all hoping that, something will be done about that. Thank you indeed for your time and all that you have shared with us today. We have been speaking with Mr. Bassey, who is a lawyer and, of course, the founder of Support Sickle Cell. Thank you indeed. And of course, we in the studio here, Dr. Ogonna Fakile is a consultant pediatric hematologist and oncologist. Thank you for all that you have shared with us. Thank you. And that's it on the program today. Thank you indeed for being with us on Health Matters. I am Yomi Otaigwe. Do stay tuned with Channels Television.